when I started, I got into the film industry kind of through advertising. I had been working in restaurants and did music for a while and other things, and movies were I love movies, but it didn't seem like an accessible thing to do. It never occurred to me to work on movies. And then when I was in the advertising agency, the broadcast division and doing commercials kind of made working in film a little more accessible, and that's kind of how I started. I moved into doing commercial production, and then I did that for a while, left the advertising agency, worked in a commercial production house for a while, before going freelance. And then at that point, you're working on something that you never thought you would be working on. And then after a while, I got bored with commercials, and I wanted to make movies. And then I was started out in San Francisco, so I came down to Los Angeles to take a class. And at that point, I'd already been kind of slotted into script supervising. I did other things along the way, but nothing stuck. And script supervising was the thing that stuck, and it was the thing people kept asking me to do. And so, especially in the beginning, you're just happy anyone asks you to do anything. And I was happy to hold a cable. I was happy to sit on the back of a truck with a walkie-talkie. So, when someone kept asking me to be a script supervisor, that's just was the thing that I kept at. And then I had to take a class eventually to kind of learn the full parameters of what I was supposed to be doing, because I just kind of stumbled through it in the beginning. And to take that class meant I came to LA, and basically then I never went back up. But starting in San Francisco is actually an advantage because it's a very small market. And once you start to know people in that small market, then those people kind of keep you working. In a larger market, you have to know more people. And it's not that you don't end up knowing more people, but I found that in that small market, it made it easier. And then at that time, when I came down, and this was over 30 years ago, when I came down to Los Angeles, it was a time that it was booming with work. LA was still the center of the universe, and there was so much work nobody could handle it all. And I started to meet people, and I worked for free, and then somebody would hand me a job, and somebody else would refer me for a job, and there was so much work that nobody could do it all. And there was a lot of work in town, and there was a lot of non-union work, so it was easy to start. It's a very different industry now, and it's very national, and LA is no longer the center, but then it was easy. And so I did a lot of television in the beginning. I worked for free on a lot of things, and then ultimately met people working in television who moved me into features. And then once that transition happened and I joined the union, then I just kept going. And it was somebody else, I think it was you, that you get one job, and then someone who you met on that job, or you met in a room down the hallway while you were on that job, calls you for the next job, or they see your name on a piece of script, or they, it's like it really is just that kind of stepping forward. As I found that a lot of the time, as you said, it wasn't me going after something so much that got me the work. It was referrals and who I met and relationships that I had created, and persistence. And so, if you're the one who doesn't go away and you're there, you're more apt to get the job than the person who isn't around. And so, and somebody else said it was about being open. Because in the beginning, I did almost everything, and I did work in the editing room in the beginning, which I think is valuable for anyone doing anything, to spend time in the editing room. It all ends up there, and it's extremely valuable. But if you're open to whatever the opportunities are that are coming, whatever someone asks you, hey, would you want to you want to be an assistant editor on this movie? Sure. Do you want to do whatever? So in the beginning, that's kind of how things kept rolling. And then as time goes by and you develop more and more relationships, and then the work just kind of keeps coming, and you gain a reputation over time. And it just keeps going, as long as you're a nice person. Because nobody wants to work with somebody who isn't pleasant to be around. You spend your life with these people. So, when you're on the set for 16 hours a day with someone who is not pleasant to be around, you're like, I am never working with that person again. And that's the end of it. It doesn't matter how good that person might be at what they do, you don't want them around. So, being pleasant and playing well with others is a very important part of the job, and being persistent and just continuing and knowing what you want and staying in there. Not, you know, being the one that's like, oh, it's too many hours, and oh no, I don't want to go there. You know, if you complain a lot, nobody wants you around. So, you know, it's a lot of those kinds of things. But it really, relationship, you never know who, like the PA on that one job is going to be the producer later. And they're going to remember you, and they're going to hire you, and you're going to be like, oh my God, the last time I knew you, you were PA, and now look at you, you're producing this huge movie. So, or they could be the director, they could be anything. Like, you never know who's going to be what, because everyone moves around. And so if you don't treat people well, then they don't want you around. So that's a really important part of the industry, is to be respectful of everyone and what everyone's doing, and to know when you're on a job that your job is not the most important job on that movie, and everyone's job is important. Everyone has a job to do. They wouldn't be there if they didn't. And to respect what each person is doing and respect the space it takes for them to do it. And communication is really important. In my job as a script supervisor, I'm kind of all that paperwork that organized the whole day's shooting goes into editorial. So that's one level of communication. And then I'm also communicating with a director and a director of photography and actors. And if I hear of any information that might help another department, I'm off communicating to them, telling them, hey, get ready for this, because I heard them over, you know, this is not on the schedule, but we might be doing this, that kind of thing. So, you know, it's a lot about communicating and helping everyone get their job done, respecting what they're doing, speaking well to people, being kind, and respecting the space on the set, because I'm a set junkie, because everything that happens on that set is for the actor. And everything everyone is doing is so the actor can stand in front of that camera and do their job and do it well and create an atmosphere of safety, and so that they can be vulnerable in the way they have to be vulnerable. And so if you don't have an awareness of that, and you don't respect the space of the set and understand it as a sacred space in which creativity happens, that's very fragile, you won't be around either. So, you know, there's a lot that goes into why someone might hire you from one show to the next, and why you might get the job and someone else doesn't, even though maybe you don't have their level of experience. So, you know, being a good person in a general sense, having perseverance, being open to experience, and having a passion for what you're doing, and, you know, entering it with a good attitude as opposed to a complaining kind of attitude or feeling put upon, that goes a long, long, long way and will gain you a career of longevity.